there, movie buffs and TV junkies. Welcome to the Drive and Chat channel, where we talk about everything from behind the scenes to Q&A and trailer reactions. I'm super excited to share my thoughts with you and hear from all of you as well. Today, I'll be tackling some of your burning questions, everything from favorite genres and directors to what makes a great film. And trust me, I am ready to share all my hot takes. And if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to check out the podcast trailer, which is linked in the description below. It'll give you a sneak peek into what you can expect from the Drive and Chat podcast, coming October 18th with 3 exciting new episodes. So buckle up and get ready to join me on this ride through all your interesting questions. Let's hit this questionable road. Okay, let's start this Q&A off. So this is going to be a 20-question rapid-fire Q&A, so I'm going to give you some real quick answers. So let's start this off with question 1. What's your favorite movie of all time and why? If I had to give it, I would probably say Dune Part 2. That was a really good film. It was in 2024, but it was a really good film. If I had to give anything Marvel-wise, I'd probably say Endgame or Infinity War or Black Panther. But I also do 90s films, so I do Great Outdoors and Top Gun and License to Drive. Question number 2. What's the worst movie you've ever seen and what made it so bad? So I actually have 2 answers. One of them is Rubber, which is in 2010. That one was on purpose to be a bad film. The other one was You People with Jonah Hill in 2023, and that one sucked because it seemed to made it all about race. I thought it was going to be another Who's Next or something like that. I forgot what the movie is, but with Ashton Kutcher and Zoe Saldana, but it was a really bad film. Question 3. How do you feel about remakes and reboots in Hollywood? This is going to be a real quick answer. They suck. Hollywood, stop making reboots and remakes. Some do need sequels because they're actually good movies, but not everything needs a sequel. Come up with something original, please. Question number 4. What's your guilty pleasure movie that you could watch over and over? I would honestly instantly say Grown Ups. I know I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, but I could see that movie over and over and over again, and I would just love to watch it over and over again. Question number 5. Are there any film or TV trends you're tired of seeing? Well, honestly, one I can think of right off the bat is starting out with action scenes right out of the gate to hook audiences. You don't really need to do that. Prime example is with Marvel. They did that with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and don't get me wrong, it's a fine movie, but you don't need to start out with an action sequence right off the bat. You really don't. You can hook people with other ways. Question number 6. How do you typically choose which movies to watch or review? Honestly, I do have a system. I do like reviewing movies that are new, but I do like reviewing movies that are old as well. I'm going to reveal a secret right now. I do have a list of all the movies that I am reviewing, so it is kind of up to chance, but you can always reach out to me and see maybe if I can review one of your movies. Number 7. How do you feel about the use of CGI versus practical effects in filmmaking? Honestly, if practical effects were used well, I would say practical effects all the way. I remember Jurassic World Dominion had used practical effects, and those were good, except for the scene where they did Beta, if you know the character. That one sucked. But other than that, no, practical effects all the way. Sometimes CGI can be really extensive to work on, and can cost a lot. Practical effects is just the cheaper way and the best way to do things. Question number 8. How do you feel about the trend of cinematic universes, like the MCU or the DC Extended Universe? Honestly, I think the DC is actually really good. I'm talking about DCU, not DCEU. I think it has a lot of potential, but cinematic universes overall, I do think that they have potential, and they give people and the audience a chance to bring their favorite characters together and interact with each other. So honestly, I like cinematic universes. They're cool. Question number 9. Are there any films or soundtracks that you would consider to be iconic? Which ones stand out to you? Honestly, I haven't really fell in love with film soundtracks until recently. So if I actually had to give a couple, I would I would recommend to you, listen to the Captain America Winter Soldier soundtrack, listen to the Avengers Infinity War soundtrack, and also make sure to listen to the Dune Part 2 soundtrack. All three of those have insane movie film scores. Those are awesome. And question 10. What's a memorable quote from a movie that has stuck with you over the years? I actually have one in mind, and it's actually from a quote-unquote recent movie. It's from Age of Ultron. This is when Ultron's talking, and he says,
"When the Earth starts to settle, God throws a stone at it. And believe me, he's winding up."
That quote gets me like every time. Question 11. What inspired you to start the Drive and Chat podcast? Honestly, that's actually a really tough question, but if I had to give you an answer right off the bat, it would be because I do like talking about movies and giving my opinion on them, and I've actually done this thing before. If any of you have followed me for a little bit now, I started the Marvel Morning podcast, so it was more of like an evolution type thing. Question number 12. How did you come up with the name Drive and Chat? Honestly, it was actually a bit of a process, if I'm gonna be truthful here. I did have a ton of other names, but a lot of them were actually already taken, and for copyright reasons, I couldn't, so Drive and Chat just was the one that I still loved and was free. How did you get into film and TV reviewing? Honestly, it was like question number 11. I just really like talking about movies. I always liked watching movies, like from all ages, and I always have thoughts on them. I could talk about movies all day, so then one day I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. And I started a blog, and then it evolved into a podcast, and now we're here. Question 14. What's your dream project to cover on the podcast? So I actually have two answers for this. One of them is actually a review. I can't wait to review Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, even though I'll review both either way. But the other one, which is like a true dream, is I want to do an interview with some of like my favorite actors, which is like Haley Steinfeld, Anthony Mackie, Ryan Reynolds, RDJ, Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, or Keegan-Michael Key. Like those are like my top actors. I love them. Those are like my good ones.
Cinderella, cause she broke, homie. She represent me, yo. Let me borrow $20.
Question 15. Can you describe your podcasting journey so far? Honestly, yeah. Honestly, my podcast journey is a little bit hectic, I'm not gonna lie. But comparing my Drive and Chat podcast now to when I had the Marvel Morning podcast, I think it's a lot better. It covers a lot more scope. It is a lot more organized than it used to be, so I actually have a set schedule and everything. So honestly, it's better, but a little bit more hectic. Question 16. How do you prepare for each episode? So basically what I do is I do have a schedule. I have certain things to do on certain days, because if you didn't know, I am actually going to college, so it is a little bit busy to manage this. So I do actually have this, and then basically I watch the movie, take notes, and then I just basically go in and record. Question 17. What equipment or software do you use for recording and editing? So to record and edit this podcast, I use simple stuff because I'm on a budget. I'm not expensive. So I'm using the Samsung Q2U microphone, and to edit this, I'm using just GarageBand. I do have a ton of other software that I use to edit like social media stuff and everything, but I'm gonna keep that on the down low. I'll keep it as a surprise. Question 18. What has been the most rewarding moment since starting the podcast? Honestly, I think the most rewarding moment is to just go out and be able to see movies and just take notes in theaters and just kind of have fun with it. And honestly, to have actually a following. It might not be a big following, but it's a following that's big enough to me that I honestly value all of your opinions, and I'm glad that somebody's listening to me. Question 19. How do you envision the future of Drive and Chat evolving? So this is a very tough question, but basically I see the Drive and Chat evolving into a bigger podcast, hopefully, and I'm going to be covering a lot more movies, and soon I'll be doing TV shows. on a later date. And so, just to let all of you know, I'm not going to have any sponsorships or affiliations yet. That's going to be around March of 2025. So, I feel like I can see my Drive and Chat being and evolving a lot, hopefully. And the last question, question 20. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start their own podcast or a film review channel? Honestly, my advice to you is to just do it. I know a lot of reviewers and people on YouTube say that, but seriously, just do it. I remember when I did my research and there were so many things to do. Yeah, there is a lot of things to do, but if you really just want to talk about films and give your opinion, just do it. Make sure you are not rambling off or anything, keep it organized, but just do it and then figure out all the other stuff later. Seriously, that's what I did. And it's honestly, to me, it's turning out great. Thanks for all your fantastic questions. If you enjoyed this Q&A and want to see more, subscribe and drop your questions in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the trailer for the Drive and Chat podcast. There's a link in the description below. Until then, keep the popcorn poppin' and the reels rollin'.